So 60 million people every single year are moving into cities. It's the largest migration in the history of mankind, and it's taking place right now all over the world. You can actually see it here. The number of people living in the countryside is decreasing, while the number of people living in the cities is increasing. So in 2008, you can see right there that for the first time ever, more people lived in the cities than in our countryside. The UN have actually said that by 2050, 85% of the entire global population will be living in a city. And when you think about how fast population is growing, that is pretty incredible. What that means is the inner cities are becoming incredibly crowded. If you take Tokyo, for example, every so often on the commuter trains, people are literally squeezed in by these strange men in white gloves. And this photo documentary shows you just how tightly packed some of the residents of Tokyo are into their trains. In Mumbai, the scenes are similar, probably a little more chaotic. In Hong Kong, there's such a lack of land area that the only solution has been to build upwards in these dense, tightly packed skyscraper cities where people live in tiny, tiny apartments. And density is something that Tokyo also shares with Hong Kong. More people actually live in this area here than the entire country of Canada. And the way they actually do that is to have very small apartments. If you're a young person in Tokyo trying to make your way in the big city, very often people live in these tiny, tiny apartments, often just 2 meters by 2 meters. They're small because the cost of living in an inner city is getting very, very expensive. Take this apartment in New York, for example. It has just 1 bedroom. It has what the estate agents describe as 1.5 bathrooms. It has quite a nice view, admittedly, but it's $1.6 million. When you compare that to what you can buy outside of the city, its price becomes all the more ridiculous. Take this castle in France, for example. It has 100,000 square meters of land, and it is less money than a 1-bedroom apartment in New York. The biggest city in the world is Shanghai, with 17 million people living inside of the city. So that means that every year we are increasing our urban areas by more than 3 Shanghai-sized cities. All of those people have to go somewhere, so we are turning huge areas of this planet into an urban sprawl, and you can actually see that taking place on these satellite photographs of Las Vegas. And over in Shanghai, the story isn't much different, with this huge area very quickly succumbing to concrete. And when you view satellite pictures of Earth at night time, the way in which we live becomes all the more clear. You can see that humanity is densely populated around some very, very small areas. And the nighttime images also reveal a strange new phenomenon, the rise of what's called a mega region. That's when cities that are nearby grow so large that they begin to grow into each other. This is the one in the northeast of the United States, and it includes Boston, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington. They're all growing outwards, steadily forming a mega region. And this is the Yangtze River Delta in China. It's this massive area being taken over by multiple cities. They're all growing into each other to form a massive mega region. And it's home to more than 88 million people. It makes it one of the largest and most dense populations of humans on the whole planet. And if you thought this was a rare thing, it's actually beginning to be quite common. In the United States, it's predicted there will be 11 mega regions. And here in Europe, there's a mega region developing that starts in Liverpool and stretches all the way down to northern Italy, and it's thought that it could have up to 104 million people living in it. So what we're supposed to do about all of this urbanization is a pretty interesting question. Famously in New York, the option has been to build up, and we see this in Tokyo and we see this in Hong Kong. And we're actually beginning to see the rise of truly massive buildings. The Burj Khalifa, for example, in Dubai, it's nearly 900 meters tall. The Chinese have spotted this trend for urbanization, and their solution is pretty radical. They have been building entire cities from scratch. Take this one, for example. The vision was to create somewhere for 1 million people to live. But very few residents actually took up the government's offer to move in, and the city, for the most part, remains empty. China's construction of cities from scratch isn't just about alleviating crowded living conditions. China is obsessed with economic growth, and it's been doing this by funding massive infrastructure projects like this one. But the pace at which people are moving into cities means we do have to build things quite quickly, and again in China they've solved this problem. This 30-story skyscraper was constructed in just 15 days. And the tallest building in the world could soon be in China. It's the Sky City, and it will stand nearly 900 meters tall. And get this, once the construction starts, the people in charge of the project think they can have this done in 90 days. Another option is to build outwards, to actually build false constructions in the sea. Tokyo has done some of this in Tokyo Bay, but famously, of course, Dubai have tried this also with their Earth Islands project.
Introducing the most innovative real estate development on Earth. Introducing the world. A place beyond imagination and an epic achievement.
But after the project's completion, most of those islands remain empty because of the 2008 financial crisis. The islands were not built to solve the problem of urbanization. They're simply second homes for extraordinarily wealthy people. But their failure hasn't stunted the ambition of other engineering companies. One Japanese firm recently announced massive plans to build these huge lily pad-like structures to float around the equator in the sea. Each one would be up to 3 kilometers across, with a 1 kilometer diameter living quarters in the middle, with room enough for 30,000 people. The idea is that many of them could float in tandem to form huge cities in the sea where we do not lack space. But there's one huge catch: the price tag. For one of these, you're looking at a price tag of around $317 billion. And when you consider that the Dubai Earth Islands project cost $14 billion and that the International Space Station cost $150 billion, justifying spending that amount of money on an unproven project is going to be difficult, if not completely impossible. But the islands do have one redeeming feature. According to the designers of this project, they are self-sufficient. So everybody living on that pad would be able to feed themselves with the technology available to them. And that is one of the interesting problems we're faced with when we construct cities. Take, for example, London. In that space that you are looking at, 8.1 million people live there. But their ecological demands are much bigger than that. In fact, this is the amount of land that's required to keep London going. It's called an ecological footprint, and it's a handy way of figuring out just how much of Earth's resources are required to keep a particular system going, in this case, London. If you do that on a planetary scale, Earth is currently using about 1.5 Earths worth of stuff. So the future looks like a place where we're going to have to make our cities bigger, but we're also going to have to make them have a smaller impact on Earth. That's a big engineering challenge. Who knows how it's going to be done? So if you guys have seen any interesting solutions to this huge problem that we're faced with, send them to us and we might be able to make a follow-up video to this one of all of the interesting solutions that have been proposed. Thanks for watching and we'll see you guys again next time.